The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Our Culture, Our Stories podcast are those of the individual hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of the NAACP or any affiliated organizations.
We have a duty as Black artists and Black writers to write down the history and write down the events of what's happening. I, as a Black writer, am so interested in digging even more into our history, into the things that are unknown. Even in the book Blood at the Root, like the main character, he learns about the Haitian Revolution, which is something I didn't learn about until I was in my 20s. We definitely have a duty to you know, transcribe our history and the political climate right now, and to, especially for the younger kids and the younger generation, like that's coming up. Yeah, definitely.
Are you familiar with the NAACP Image Awards?
I am, yes.
Any recollection of when you first became familiar with the Image Awards? Any memories? Any thoughts? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I remember a lot of when like Monique won that time for Precious. Like we used to watch it all the time, the award show, because I was that type of nerd of watching award shows and watching actors, win their awards during that season. So that's when I kind of like first remember started watching it around that time.
I don't know if I'd call that nerd. I would just call that manifestation, right? You know, yeah.
Right, right.
You were preparing yourself for what was to
Yeah.
come. LaDarrion, if I were to speak to your family or those people who know you best, who know you well, who've known you forever, what kind of child would they say you were?
I I think they would say that I was always very imaginative. I was one of those kids who would love to watch the movies, but also stay after. I remember they used to have like the behind the scenes featurettes on the movies, and I would kind of like watch those and kind of like dream about it, like of me doing that type of work. So they would kind of say that like I was always very creative, very determined to make this dream come true from a very young age, especially when I got into like high school. They were like, they always say like, you really did it. Like you really did what you set out to do. I think they would definitely have some words about that, of how I was just very determined and very um, steadfast in my dreams. And sometimes, I was impulsive, like just making that move from Alabama to LA to make this dream come
Mhm.
true. So yeah, I think they would say a lot about that.
What was that move like from Alabama to Los Angeles? You went from where were you in Alabama?
Yeah, so I was in a small, like kind of like a small county, Shelby County, Alabama. So
Hmm.
it was like a conglomerate of like three cities. So I grew up in Helena, Alabama, and I went to high school in Alabaster, Alabama, which is like 25 minutes outside of Birmingham. And yeah, I can remember the day that I was working after having to drop out of high school, not high school, after having to drop out of college. I was working at Taco Bell at the time, and I was just like, I cannot stay here. I wanna write television. I want to write plays. I want to act. I want to do everything entertainment. And so I bought a one-way ticket on Southwest right then and there while working in the drive-through to Los Angeles. I've never been out of the South. I've never even been on a plane before, and that was May 9th, 2015. So almost 10 years ago. And yeah, I packed up three suitcases and a dream, and I moved out here to LA and really never looked back. And yeah, it's been almost 10 years. So it was scary. It was scary for that small town boy to go from, something so comfortable and something so, just you're used to everything, to go into this big city where everybody every day moved to make their dreams come true. And now you're really a small fish in the ocean. Like that's how it kind of felt. Yeah, it was scary. But I'm glad I made that change.
Good for you. Transitioning a little bit to when you talk about inspiration,
Mm.
we hear that the inspiration behind the novel Blood at the Root was sparked in part by a lack of representation. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I when I was in high school, the young adult like genre of books was really big. Like there was Percy Jackson, Hunger Games, Twilight, all of those books, and like they became big movies, right? And as a country black boy, like watching those movies, I really didn't see myself. I really didn't see my friends or like my family in those type of stories, unless we were kind of like the side characters. And so I really wanted to write my own story, but going through that, I kind of fell out of love with reading for years. And it wasn't
Mm,
until the pandemic where I kind of got back into reading because we were stuck in the house and like I'm just like what is like I just wonder what's going on with the young adult fantasy or young adult genre in general in books. And so I went to Barnes and Noble out here in Burbank, California, and I was just like, hey, like I'm looking for books, with young black boys as the main lead because I kind of just want to see myself on the cover in these books. And so
mm.
we went to the young adult fantasy section, and the clerk looked up and down, and I looked up and down, and she was so embarrassed because she was like, "Oh my gosh, we really don't have anything like to kind of give to you." And so that's when that kind of sparked the book version of Blood at the Root. So I made that declaration right then and there to go write the book version of that. And yeah, 12 days later, I had the first draft of the book, and yeah, that's how the book kind of came to be.
12 days later, you had the first draft.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was fast because you know I went through a lot with this story. It started off as a TV show. I didn't intend for it to be a book. It started off as a TV pilot that I wrote, and I wrote a short film and I filmed a short film during the pandemic. But after everything started opening up, like Hollywood kept saying no, like this story is not marketable. It's not something that we really want to see. And in that depression, I just like this story is meant to be told. I just don't know how to tell it. I've done everything that I could for it. It went viral on social media, on YouTube, and I just didn't know what else to do. But when I made that declaration in that Barnes and Noble that day, I turned into that book. Um, I guess it sparked. I guess it was meant to be a book first, and now that it came out, it hit the New York Times and the USA Today. It was
Mhm.
featured on Good Morning America and Kelly Clarkson show. So it just that detour was it, it it didn't get me to my destination that I wanted, but it got me to the destination that I needed. So yeah, that's it's just been a
Yeah,
wild ride.
yeah. Before we talk about the New York uh, Times bestseller and all those things that you just mentioned, and about what it feels like to use your work to change the narrative of Black boys and men. Let's talk about
Mm.
that viral moment. Where were you when you realized, man, I'm viral? Were people calling you? Did you wake up and you had 1,000 messages? Just share a little bit with us about that moment and what you experienced. What was that like?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. So it was a twofold thing. So I the first thing I remember it was we were stuck in the house and I was watching like reruns of Moesha and the Parkers, as we probably all were, and I was just we all on Twitter and like just spewing out random thoughts and like I'm just at that point I was just so I just needed to see like some fantasy stories and like I remember it was Lovecraft Country and I was like yeah like yo like what if like we love Lovecraft Country on HBO like but what if Harry Potter went to an HBCU in the South, and I guess that tweet kind of like just blew up and like and people were like I guess they didn't really think about it because we all grew up loving that story but we really didn't see ourselves in that story, and so I guess it sparked something, and I was getting messages like people were sending me like their headshots and like resume, like, yo, like if you're making this into a TV show, like I want to audition. And I'm like, I don't even have a script yet, but okay. I saw that going viral on Twitter, so I started posting on TikTok about it. It's like, hey, like, yo, what if Harry Potter went to an HBCU in the South? And like the TikToks kept going viral, and that's when I realized I had something very, very special because people wanted to see that. People were very hungry to see, Black characters in a different type of setting, like in a very, I think Lovecraft like definitely uh like open something up for that representation in science fiction and fantasy. And so I just took it and ran with it, and I was just like, okay, we're gonna make I'm gonna write a script, and I'm gonna write a short film, and I'm gonna produce it myself. I'm not gonna wait on Hollywood to produce it for me. So yeah, we produced that short film in the middle of the pandemic, and we snuck onto the UCLA campus, and we were acting like we were having magic and all of that. But that's when I really, really knew that it was special because the short film went viral. People were having watch parties and commenting on it and sharing it. And so yeah, it started from that one little tweet that I didn't even think about, I was just spewing something random.
So you went and did some guerrilla recording, is what we call it. Snuck on the UCLA campus, huh? Did the whole short.
Listen, we did. We did. We shot all over LA.
Yeah,
To say
yeah.
a shoestring budget is very modest, but yeah, we did it. Like me and my friends got together and we were safe because it was during the COVID times, and yeah, and these characters kind of just came to life. And
Hmm.
um even my actor friends were like, man, like this is really something very special. And so to see that the book being so successful, those same actors that were in the short film was just like, yo, like I remember, we were up, till 4 in the morning just trying to get this one scene done. Or like, I remember you were editing it, or you were just really pushing it out. And so um yeah, it's the little short film that could. I always say that it's the little short film that could. It was the seed that I was planting in fertile ground. So, and the harvest came, and it's still coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how does it feel to use your work to change the narrative of Black boys and men? What is that? How does that feel? Are you thinking, wow, I was chosen for this? I must have been. It's I was destined for this. How does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I always say, you always heal the inner child, right? But I do feel like a lot of people forget about the inner teenager. So I wanted all I wanted was to showcase that, like young Black men, Black boys, they can be the hero too. Like, they don't always have to go through at the time, and I'm not saying that these stories are not important because they're very important, but at the time, that the only time we saw Black men being featured in books and plays and movies is when they were getting, shot and killed by police. And I'm not saying that those stories are not important because that was happening. I saw that as a Black man every single day, but I wanted to kind of like change the narrative that, like, also like we could take that and we could take that power and we could reclaim it. And even like, the book cover of Blood and Through is radical because you see a dark skinned Black boy with a hoodie on. Because I remember when I was his age, the main characters, Malik Barron, it was the Trayvon Martin case. And I remember,
Mhm.
like when I was in college, I couldn't even wear a hoodie because my mom was like, I know it's 30 degrees outside, but like you wear that hoodie in that car and you take it off. And having
Mm.
that conversation. So even putting the Black boy in a hoodie on the cover was very important to me because I wanted to take that stereotype and reclaim it and use it as his armor. And this is the same Black boy that's standing on the same soil that his ancestors fought and bled on, and now he is there. He is the amalgamation of their wildest dreams, and like he is casting that magic that he is learning his history and his lineage. So I really wanted Black boys to read this book and say, hey, like, oh, I can be the hero. Like I'm not this. I may come from this environment, but that doesn't define who I am. I can rise up, and I can tap into the things that people tried to take away from me, and the history that was hidden from me. So that was very important for me, and if I'm chosen to do that, I'm grateful for that. But I always look to the black writers who came before me, who paved the way, and even the writers now and the writers who are coming up, after. I always look to them to kind of say, like, we can do it. Our stories are important, and they don't have to be so filtered, and we have so much history that needs to be told, and so just we have to keep writing and keep fighting the fight.
Absolutely. New York Times bestseller.
Mm.
Uh,
I
is that
mean,
on you? Yeah, go ahead.
no, I mean, yeah, like, it's so funny, like finding out I was on the Brooklyn Bridge going into New York for the very first time. My team called me. They was like, "Oh my God, like, like Blood and Bruise on New York Times," and I was just so excited because that was something that I really wanted, to showcase, because publishing still have a lot of work to do. It may seem like, oh, like this book is overnight success, yes, but we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to publishing and in regards to representation. So the fact that a country black boy story who has magic and who learns about his history and goes to a magical HBCU, and learn about the history that the world has hidden from him, was on the New York Times bestsellers list, was it just shattered so many ceilings,
Mhm.
and it proved a lot of people in the industry wrong, in Hollywood and in publishing. It proved a lot of people wrong, and it was kind of like, I tried to tell you, I tried to tell you. So, yeah, I'm grateful.
Yeah. How'd you come up with the name? Just real quickly, Malik. How'd that name come about?
I don't even remember. I just, you always hear those writers say, like, my characters talk to me. Like, no,
Hmm.
it's really true. Like, your characters do manifest to you, manifest themselves to you. I, I was just like, okay, I was trying to figure out a name for this young character, and the first thing that popped up was Malik Barron. And
Hmm.
with Baron in regards to like Haitian voodoo and Haitian ancestry, like Baron, it mean king, and it also it's a part of like the deity that they worship, and so you have Banwan Samedi, which is Baron Samedi. So I was like, oh, Malik Baron, like this is a cool name for a black boy in a fantasy story. So I think it just naturally came to me. While I was writing the script, and it just carried over into the book.
Amazing. So art is activism, right? And the pen is mightier than any sword. The NAACP has been around. The NAACP Image Awards have been around since 1967, and of course, we celebrate and elevate Black achievement across several categories. And outstanding literary works is one of those categories. And it's been around since the very first NAACP Image Awards,
Oh,
1967. So, the old adage goes, right? We're not new to it, we're true to it. And so that's a part of the reason why we had to have you as a part of this series. This category means everything. So, a couple of other questions for you. We've got a
wow.
little time left. I want to ask you, do you think that the current political climate has encouraged, influenced the ways that you and other Black authors approach storytelling? And if so, how so?
My answer is I hope it will, because Black history in regards to like in classrooms, especially like in the South, like it's being threatened and it's trying to be erased for some reason. I guess the truth
Huh.
hurts to 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 some people. Um,
But it also sets
I
one
think it
free, right?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think we have a duty as Black artists and Black writers to you know, to write down the history and write down the events of what's happening. Like I always look to, for me, I stand on the shoulders of like August Wilson and Lorraine Hansberry and like Zora Neale Hurston, right? Like how they wrote about their people and their communities and like their history. and not allowing their lineage to be erased. I, as a Black writer, am so interested in digging even more into our history, into the things that are unknown. Even in the book Blood at the Root, like the main character, he learns about the Haitian Revolution, which is something I didn't learn about until I was in my 20s, because I wasn't taught that. So it's just and how it was inspired so much of Black American history, and so we definitely have a duty to you know, transcribe our history and the political climate right now, and to, especially for the younger kids and the younger generation like that's coming up, it's important for them to know their history throughout, because Black history is so vast and it's so important and it's so complex. So definitely, I would hope so, but for me and mine, I'm definitely gonna do my best to write the truth, and no matter how ugly it is, um in my plays and books and television and movies. It's definitely my duty as a Black writer, because I look to those who came before me and they did it and they weren't afraid. So why should I be
Yes,
afraid,
sir.
So
Which
yeah, definitely.
which brings me to a statistic. You mentioned what's happening in the South. From July 2023 to December 2023, over 4,000 books were banned across 23 states. Over 4,000. Are you concerned at all about your work possibly being censored or banned? Has that been a thought of yours?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure. I guess I don't know if writers look that up to see if it's been banned. I definitely see a lot of hesitation when I've been touring in the South, in regards to my book. Um, because my book, it's about a Black boy's journey. So he's going to explore different things, especially in college, right? And he's going to a magical Black college, and so there's cussing, there's partying, there's everything that a young person goes through, but also there's a lot of history that is being brought up, real history that's happened in the South, and I do see a lot of hesitation when it comes to my work. I don't know if it's been actively banned in the South. I'm not surprised that it would be, but that's why I say we have to fight even harder for our stories and our artists that are really writing that truth, because they're really trying to erase our stories, which is like you can't erase what you've done for over 400 years. Like you just can't. And the fact that they're trying to do it is something that we really have to fight against. Um, it's just sad.
Very
Like
telling.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's very telling. It's
Yeah.
very
It's
sad that yeah,
you,
it's just I'm just trying to I know other writers, some of my favorite writers' books are currently banned, right
mhm.
now. That, and it's just so sad because we write these books for kids. And sometimes a lot of, kids who are not Black, they just like they look to their parents, it's like, why are you trying to do this? It's not that, I guess to them it's not that serious. It's like if we learn about it, we learn about it. It's not like we're hurting anybody. It's just we're just telling our truth, just like F. Scott Fitzgerald told his truth, just like other white writers were telling their truth during that time. And they weren't really banned, So I don't know. It's very telling when it comes to
it,
Black and, just Black writers.
yeah. You mentioned those who come before you, and many of them used their writing as a form of resistance, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's interesting because those who are banning books are the first to talk about free speech.
Right.
And how
So
and how
interesting.
much their proponents, yeah, yeah, how much of a proponent they are for free speech.
Mhm.
Through Blood at the Root, it seems as though you've been able to create complex, obviously multidimensional and honest characters. Go Malik, that reinforce
Yes.
positive and well-rounded perspectives of Black identity in literature. What is your process in creating characters that resonate with the readers? Or is it just really an internal thing that you do and you're like, this is what I feel, this is what I, and I just see if it resonates with other people. Is that more of your process, or is there an intentional thing, that a process that you have so that it resonates with readers about Black culture and identities?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. I think it's more so what I feel and what's really resonated with me and what's natural to me. I think about my mom who has lived in Alabama all her life. I think about my aunties, my uncles, who you know who live their who live their everyday lives and just trying to survive, right? I remember growing up and the Fourth of July, it wasn't about patriotism when it came to Black folks, and especially in my neighborhood. It was just a day off, and we get to eat, and we get to party, and we get to listen to music and all of that. And I remember going to the Candy Lady house, right? And like and learning, growing up and learning, like, wow, like that is a long history of Black women entrepreneurs who were just trying to feed their families, like, and keep the money in the neighborhood. Um, that's what I kind of come from when I approach writing. I as a playwright, I try to capture the language of the everyday people, and listen to the poetry. Like even my mom, the way certain things that she says, that people are like, oh my gosh, like that could be seen as this or that, but it's like, no, this is just the language of the South. Like it's poetry. I try to think about the 17-year-old Black boy who is sitting in the back of the class, and the teacher is ignoring them, or they're criminalizing them, putting them in detention or suspending them, but don't realize that they probably have a lot going on in at home, and also they have a story within themselves that is just actively being ignored. I think about all the Black kids that just wants to see themselves in the magical adventure that really don't get to see themselves in it. I approach it in that way, infusing our history. And my friend always call it edutainment, right? Like it's still, we're
Mhm.
educated, but we're also still entertaining people. You have like this magical HBCU, but also this epicenter of Black culture, but also Black magical culture, and also showcasing our spirituality, African spirituality, and Southern folklore, that is in history in Hollywood has been deemed as demonic or as evil, right?
Mhm.
But it's just as complex, it's just as interesting as Greek mythology that they're still teaching kids in school. They're teaching the Greek mythology and upholding that, but demonizing when it comes to Black spirituality. Um, Growing up in the Southern Baptist Church, and infusing all of those lessons that I've learned in the church in this book and into this character. I come from all of that, and I pour that into the series and into everything that I write. You're gonna see the grandmother character who we all know that we sat at the feet of our grandmothers and learned the wisdom of God, right? Like we all learned the legacies and the ancestry of our families, and we know that the grandmother she's the weaver, she's the center of the Black American family. And also, you have those uncles that says the wrong things, and you're like, whoa, like that's a little too much, but they're real people and fully realized human beings. That's my goal, is to tell fully realized human beings on the page and on the
Yeah.
stage and on the screen. So yeah,
Those are all
that's how
real
I approach it.
people. Yeah, those
Yeah,
are all real people who are part of the fabric of the family, right? Particularly the Black dynamic. So it's fair to
exactly.
say that you so it's fair to say that you stay true to your story. You stay true to, you don't compromise, is what I'm hearing in the story.
Mhm.
So you didn't think at any point in time, I need to do something different with this story in order for it to be sold, in order for people to purchase the book, or did you?
Absolutely not. just as far as just trying to sell the book, that's why the book wasn't marketable. I had a whole bunch of editors and publishers saying, oh, we don't know what to do with this is not marketable, this is too that, even down to the language of the type of things that I spelled, like in the book, right, like the AAVE, how they say country black folks talk, and like they deem it as not intelligent, but it's no, it's again, it's poetry. It's the language of the everyday, people. It was definitely difficult to constantly hear that from the powers that be. Like, this is not. Can you change this, or this is too this, or this is too that. And I had to stay true to it because this is, it started off as a story that I wanted, but also the character Malik took over. This is his story. He's like, yo, this is my story. These are my family. These are my people, and you have to approach it in truth. You're the vessel. Like, as a writer, I'm just a vessel telling this young black boy's story. Um, so yeah, but again, I think about the language of how August Wilson crafts, dialogue, how Zora Neale Hurston, she craft, the way people spoke in back in her town. It's just, yeah, it's just, that's what I carry, and I don't want. Again, they didn't sacrifice it just to I guess appease the masses,
Sell the
or like
book.
to be sold, or to, yeah. Um, I can't. It just, there's something in me that won't allow it. You're gonna hear the country auntie. You're gonna hear the country grandmama. You're gonna hear the stories of the grandfather who had to till the soil and wipe the sweat off his brow and come home and try to, take the world off his shoulders, but he can't because he has to feed his family. You're going to hear the history of those who lost their lives, and the magic and the resilience that they had, and how it's cyclical, right? How we're trying to break generational chains in each generation, which is my main character, which is what he's trying to do in the course of 3 books, break that generational cycle so he can heal. Yeah, we all have to heal something broken that we didn't break, right? So, yeah, I can't compromise that. It's, if I do, it's just not going to work for
Hmm.
me. It
Yes,
feels
sir.
unnatural.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. You mentioned a couple of authors, very well-known authors. Is it fair to say that they're some of your favorites? And are there other authors that came before you that you really respect, appreciate, and studied their works? Any
Yeah,
others?
yeah, I have to throw in like some of my favorite playwrights as well, like, Katori
Mm-hmm.
Hall.
Mm-hmm.
The way she craft language and the way she craft black folks in the South. Dominique Morisseau, she's one of my favorite playwrights of all time. Just the way she craft
Mm-hmm.
black characters. I love, like, I'm very inspired by the author Tomi Adeyemi, the author of Children of Blood and Bone. Like, just reading her work and like looking at her interviews, I'm just like, yo, like, I could do that. Like, the way she talked about West African mythology, I would love to do that for, Black American Southern folklore. Like, we have a lot of folklore that is so cool that a lot of kids don't even know, that I would love to introduce in these books. I really look up to Angie Thomas, the way she wrote about her hometown in Mississippi. I really look up to those authors. And also, authors like Ryan Douglas, who is the author of Taking of Jake Livingston, who is a black male author who has fought for representation of black men in young adult fantasy and publishing, and was met with a lot of resistance. Just his activism in that really inspired me to to help pick up the mantle and say, hey, like, black men in publishing and YA, we deserve to have our stories told as well. And so, yeah, those are some writers that I really really look up to.
You mentioned being a vessel for the story. Maya Angelou, the great Maya Angelou, said, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. Is how
Mm.
relatable is that for you?
It's so funny that, yeah, it's so funny that you said that quote, because I remember those days when I was between the short film and the pilot and working on the book. There were days I couldn't get out of bed. because I was so
Mm.
depressed that because you're hearing no every single day, and you're like, why am I fighting for this story? I don't understand. This story would not leave me alone, and it was an agonizing feeling because my character was like, you got to get up, you got to tell my story. Like I won't leave you alone until you tell my story, right? And that's how I knew, like my ancestors, my guide, my guides, they're like, this is something ordained. You need to write this story. I promise it's going to come to pass. It was a lot of agony because it was in my dreams. It was in my everyday language. It was in my friends were like, "What's up with the short film?" People on social media was like, "Yo, what's up with the short film?" And I felt so guilty because I made all this hoopla about this story, and like I was getting, unfortunately, Blooded Through has been rejected from this short film festival or from this production company or from this publisher. Um, and I just like, look, there was one day I was like, I pulled over on the side of the road and I yelled to God. I said, look, you said faith without works is dead, dude. I've done the work. I wrote the book. I wrote the short film. I published. I'm trying to get into publishing. I don't know what
Were you
else to
that
do.
calm? Were you that calm when you said
No,
that?
I don't know if I don't know if I can say what I really wanted to say because me and God we had some words. Like I was being a little disrespectful because I was so angry at the
Mm.
at the industry, and like and I was becoming bitter and jaded with it. And so but I was like, look, I've done the work. You have to make a way. I've done everything that I humanly possibly can. Like you have to make a way. And then a couple of months later, I found out I sold the book in 3-book deal in a major deal. So, I mean, maybe sometimes you just have to get
Did
to
you
that point.
did you go back and apologize to God? Did you go,
I
or did you
did.
just
I
say thank you?
did.
Yeah, yeah.
I did.
What did
I
that
was like,
apology?
I,
What did that apology sound like?
I,
I'm just
it's one of
curious.
those like, it's one of those things where he's like, hey, you remember that conversation? Yeah, I'm sorry. But I realized that all those rejections, all those no's, um, me working hours driving Lyft and Uber to pay for the short film festivals and to pay for, to get my book ready. I was just planting seeds. And it's like, I bet God was like, like LaDarrion, the harvest is coming. You just got to keep planting the seeds. And so, and you have to weather through the storm, and there's always sunshine on the other end, right? And so when I sold that book, and when it came out, and when it's doing numbers, it's still selling, and people are still reading it, and I'm having
Mhm.
kids come up to me and message me like, and I'm having mothers and fathers like, yo, like this book is like, this is what my son is going through. This is what my kids are going through. It was all worth it, it, I stepped out on faith, and I thought the bridge was crumbling at one point, and I thought there was no more bridge, and I was just falling into the abyss, right? But it's like, no, like it's just I just had to weather through that storm of like rejection. Like rejection is going to come, but if you weather through and if you believe in your story more than enough, it's going to come to pass. It has to. Like like you have to bend, or the universe have to bend. Like it's just there's no way around it. And I try to tell writers that all the time. If it's a story that's constantly bothering you, it's going to be told one way or another. I had to go through many avenues. I had to go through the short film. And when it didn't work out with the film in Hollywood, didn't say yes, I went to the book, and now I got IP. And Hollywood loves IP. And so it's just, sometimes God redirects you sometimes, and it's okay.
Sure.
And because you're going to get to the destination either way.
What does it feel like to be on the other side? Are you just every day like, man, I have made it to the other side of this thing? What does it feel
Mhm.
like? What are you saying to yourself?
I'm It's so interesting that I haven't slowed down. Even my friends are always saying, like, LaDarrion, you got to slow down because you've done so much this year. The book has done so well. You've appeared on this, you appeared on that. And I do have to slow down and take it in. Just even looking at my vision board that's like right here, half the stuff that came to pass on this vision board. And I'm grateful, but I'm also in the mood of, you know, I have to keep working. I have to keep going, and I have to. The work is not done. The work is not done, and it's not. Um, and I have to keep adding to the canon of Black American literature. So it's that you need to rest, but you also need to work harder. Because again, publishing and Hollywood and even like just everything entertainment, um, you have to. It's a different ball game for Black artists and Black writers and just artists in general. It's just a different ball game. So it's like I got to keep going. I got to keep working. That's the mindset I'm in now.
Got got it. Is Easter one of your favorite holidays?
It's actually Christmas, so the holiday that's that's literally coming up. I look.
Okay.
I mean, I remember
The
Easter
reason
growing up. Like,
do, do you know why I ask?
no, I'm
Because
curious.
yeah, your book highlights many cultural significant Easter eggs. What is that about?
Mm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. I love how you threw that in there. I love that. Yeah. I did. Everything is intentional, even from the book cover to the back of the book, right? Even inside, a lot of people don't even know inside the hardcover, like the symbols. I wanted to throw in not only African spirituality and Haitian voodoo spirituality, but also
Mhm,
Black American folklore and
mhm,
church. There's
mhm.
even gospel songs that I put in the book, that Malik is he doesn't even know. He doesn't even like the gospel songs that his grandmother is singing to him are hidden messages, because that's in history, in Black history, that's how the enslaved people did, like they were singing to, and to kind of decode everything. And so I took that
Right,
approach, in the book, and putting those Easter eggs in, like even from the book cover where you have the Spanish moss tree, right? We all know the Spanish moss tree, what it means in the South, and with the blue bottles hanging, which is representative of like hoodoo culture. Also, the title itself, "Blood at the Root," right? Like it came from Billie Holiday's song, but it's also reclaiming that word, "blood at the root." It's saying that as a 17-year-old kid, Malik, I am the ancestors' wildest dreams, but I have to keep going. So it's like little nuggets like that I sprinkled through all the book of the first book, and even through book two and book three. Like there's so many things that you know that I that I that I put in that people are like, wait a minute, hold
yeah,
up, what does that mean?
yeah, yeah. Let's get to the sequel, but before that, how are
Yeah,
LaDarrion and Malik most alike, and how are they most different?
most of like I think Malik is very vulnerable when it comes to people that he trusts. And that's how I am. That's how I was, when I was when I was his age. Um, ha- Wanting to feel safe and wanting and not and even though the physical, the physicalness of the world is not safe for him, so I have to kind of shrink myself and go into a world that can create. Malik kind of, it's not a spoiler, but Malik kind of creates like this ghost kingdom for himself. A lot of times
Mm-hmm.
when I research, a lot of times, you know kids who deal with childhood trauma, like they kind of create like an alternate reality for themselves. So I've done that a lot, as a kid, and as a kid who was going through a lot of childhood trauma. But the differences is Malik he's much more confident than I am. He don't
Mm.
care who you could be, 18, 30, 60. He will tell you about yourself, and he does not care. It gets him in trouble a lot of the times, and some people like, oh, this child got a mouth on him. Um, so he's more outspoken, and he's more confident in himself, even in his magical ability. He's like, look, I may accidentally burn down the classroom, but look, I'm sorry. Like, like, oh well, like y'all can rebuild it. I'm more so like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to. Like, and he's like, oh well, like I'm here to get to the truth. I don't care. So that's like some of the differences that me and him are kind of like, because we be battling sometimes. Like, bruh, Malik, like, calm down, chill out. And he's like, no, like they did this to me. Like, I gotta say something. I'm more so, I let it fester. I let it, I internalize it, and then I'll say, you remember that one time you said this, blah blah blah, and they'll be like, yo, that was like 6 months ago. I'm like, okay, but I'm finally, I'm finally saying something about it. He said something about it, on the fly. So, yeah, that's how we're different.
Yeah. Who's most proud of you? Who would you say is most proud of you and what you've accomplished thus far?
Mm. I want to say, of course, I want to say like my mama. I think the specialness of this story is seeing my actor friends who, I mean, they initially risked their health to kind of like help me with this short film in the middle of the pandemic. Um, when the book launched and they were there and like I posted pictures of the short film all over the bookstore. um, it was so cool to kind of see them like look like, yo, I remember that day. I remember that. Like, and then they come up to me like, we're so proud of you, and we knew it. You just didn't. There were days where you didn't know it. We knew it, and I think that's I really do think that's the special part about it and part about this journey. Um, I think my mom is really proud of. I know she's really proud of me because she's like, "You did it." Like she said it so nonchalant one day when I told her, I was like, "Hey, I sold the book." She was like, "Wow,
Is that how you
you really
said it?
did it." I know.
Hey,
Yeah, I
hey,
was
I
like, "Yo,"
sold the
like I
book.
was like, "Hey." I sold the book, and she was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Yeah, I sold the book. I'm getting paid to write a book series." And she's like, wow, like, and even when I sent her like little clips, like when I got flown out to New York to be on Good Morning America, and like I guess she said, a lot of people at her job was watching the episode. She's like, oh my gosh, like, and she always says that she's like, you really did it, because sometimes family
Wow.
they do it out of protection, but when I was going through the storm out here in LA, that every artist go through, housing instability, financial struggles, sometimes the main ones were like, "Hey, like you need to come home. You need to give this up. You need to." And I'm like, "No, I have a vision. I have a plan. I just need to stick it through." And it's like, "Look, it's not working. Like you just need to come home." And it's kind of like now she's like, "I'm kind of glad you didn't come home. Like you did
Right.
it." She always says that. She's like,
Yeah.
"You did
And, and
it."
you know, 8 years is not a long time. You said 2015. You said you
Yeah,
moved out in
2015. Yeah.
20. Yeah, and so that's not a long time, really. I know stories of people in Hollywood. It's been 20
Hmm.
before
Yeah.
they really do what the. But I want to ask you a question. Did you see American Fiction? Have you seen that? So it came out to much critical acclaim and awards.
It
Oh, he's
did.
grinning. The premise, of course, of the film is a black author having to blacken up his books and tropes to find success and hopes of finding success and mainstream appreciation. Is this something that you've ever encountered in this literary world?
Woo. I have to say that movie was very triggering as a black
Mm.
author. That was going
Hmm.
through. I was going through that, and when the movie came out,
Elaborate,
I
yeah.
was going. Yeah, I was going through. Whew, because I like even like Jeffrey Wright is such an amazing actor, and it was beautifully directed and beautifully acted. The scene between Jeffrey Wright and Issa Rae, that whole kind of that little debacle that they had about the representation of black people in books. um I was now that I'm on the other side, I'm like, I understand where he's coming from, but I was understanding a lot where Issa was coming from, because I was the Issa in that situation,
Mm.
and sadly, I was having some people, when people are with you, there are certain people that are with you during the struggle, but when you achieve that thing, that you're setting out to achieve, now they're like criticizing it down to every single letter, every single. every single little action, and it's just like, just because you didn't grow up this way, just because your family doesn't talk this way, does not give you the right to discount those people and say that this is that. We don't want to see this. We don't want to see this in a book. It's like, no, these are people, and I approach it from, these are people's real lives. Just like Issa said it. Like, I've actually, Issa's character, she said, I actually interviewed the people and I went into the community and put their voices on the page. And so, yeah, the movie was very triggering, but it was very enlightening. Even my friend that I went to go see it with, he's a filmmaker, and we had some, as a black man at that, as black men, we had a really beautiful conversation about black storytelling and what we want to do. And there's going to come criticism of your work, and how do you navigate that? And at that time, the movie that it came out, it really helped me navigate that, and navigate the other side of the dream that most people try to achieve. So, great movie. It was very triggering.
You mentioned a bit earlier about uh, black stories not being marketable and being told this is
Mm,
not marketable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, was there or is there a black author community where you can get advice from? Is there anything like that that exists? Like, where do black authors go when they need support or to speak to someone who perhaps has already done it? Because a lot of those who come before you, they're either gone or people, of
yeah.
course, are living all over the country. Is there a community that exists for black authors that you know of?
I mean, I'm pretty sure, black authors that are out now, that are publishing, that have published and that are going through it. They have like kind of, we have like our debut group, which means like,
Hmm.
so I have like 2024 debuts. Um, Certain authors who debuted in 2018, they have their own groups and their own cliques. And so I'm pretty sure that they're out there and that they're available for certain authors. My personal journey was, I have my tribe of people. I have a collective that me and my friends started to tell our own stories, because, theaters were not giving us the opportunities, or Hollywood wasn't giving
What's
us the opportunities. Yeah, it's called
what's the
Black
name of
Creators
that collective?
Collective.
It's
Yeah,
called
Black
Black
Creators
Creators
Collective.
Collective. Okay.
Yeah, the Black Creators
Okay.
Collective. It's
Yeah.
it's just a bunch of artists that got together in 2019, and they produced a lot of my plays. We produced short films. We actually produced a Black Playwrights Festival, at the Waco Center out here in North Hollywood, and it was very successful. And so I kind of look to them, a lot of the times. Like, sometimes they may not understand a lot of the publishing, jargon that I say, but like, when I go through those moments of self doubt, and like, just, you know, like, having those moments like, man, like, do I really deserve this, or do I really, like, is it going to be taken
Mm,
away from me? They're like,
mm.
LaDarrion, chill. You deserve it. You worked for it. And we all come from a different walks of life. We all come from the South, or Chicago, or Ohio, like, but we all came to LA for one goal, and that's to tell our stories truthfully. And so, I kind of, for me as an author, I kind of have them to kind of lean on, because they've been with me.
Got it.
They've been with me when I didn't have anything, when I was trying to produce a play and only one person showed up. And they've been with me when and now. So, so I kind of look to them as just as as a person that I lean on. So yeah.
So it sounds like you moved to LA, got off the Southwest Airlines flight, and you found your village. That's what it sounds like, and it sounds like they've been very supportive of you as you've been of them, and that's worked for you. So, first of all, thank you for your time. This has been a fantastic interview. I'd like to
Yeah.
know if there's anything that you'd like to say as we come to a close. Is there anything on your mind that you'd like to share with the community?
Absolutely. Please pull up for your Black artists and your Black creatives, especially for those who are asking, like, where's the Black fantasy? Where's the Black sci-fi? Where's this, and this? There are indie filmmakers, there are indie authors that are writing the stories that y'all are wanting and wanting to see. We just have to pull up and we have to support because numbers matter. It does. There's no way around it. Please pull up and please support. Retweet, share, repost anything that these Black artists are writing because people are writing some great stuff, and they just need the access to it, to and the funding to bring you the stuff. So please support. I always say that. Also, Bones at the Crossroads, which is Blood at the Root, the sequel to Blood at the Root, is available for pre-order. Please go pre-order the book, because pre-orders are very important for Black authors. It just showcases to publishers like, oh, people are still sticking with this series. So we're going to push it. We're going to market it more. And so please pre-order. The sequel is bigger and better. And yeah, that's what I have to say.
You shared a lot with us, and you've been very transparent. Our culture, our stories, a NAACP Image Awards podcast. Thank you very much, LaDarrion Williams. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Our Culture, Our Stories podcast are those of the individual hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policies or positions of the NAACP or any affiliated organizations.